Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the brand new Li-Ning Liren 6. So if you guys didn't know, Liren 5 V2 and the Liren 5 is one of my favorite hoop shoes for the past year. It's just such an amazing guard shoe, you know, just super duper responsive, and I just feel extremely quick in the shoe. I just don't have to worry about anything when I'm hooping in these, right? So of course the new version, the Liren 6 came out, so I had to cop, you know what I mean? So this is the Buzz Lightyear colorway and it looks pretty dang cool, you know what I mean? If you guys like Toy Story, I feel like this is really dope, right? So yeah, if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave an affiliate link in the description box, and if you do choose to get this shoe, it does help me out if you buy it through the affiliate link in the description box. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support. But I did get it from Kickzone. It does retail for $171, so it depends on the colorway that you get, of course, right? And also the Liren 5 V2 you can get for a really good price as well. So again, a link will be in the description box, but let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, right? So here in this colorway, we do have a translucent outsole. And I'm not a huge fan of translucent outsoles because usually they do pick up a little bit more dust than their solid rubber counterparts. However, they are using tough rubber in this shoe, right? And tough rubber is supposed to be 2.5 times more durable than traditional rubber, which I think is I don't know how they know that, or how they tested that, but that's what they're saying, right? So if you do want to play on an outdoor court, you should be fine with the shoe because first of all, the grooves are really thick, they're very deep, and also the rubber is so freaking hard, you know what I mean? And again, they are using tough rubber, so you should be fine. You're gonna be good to go on an outdoor court. You're gonna be fine for durability with this shoe for the outsole. And how does the traction feel so far? It feels freaking phenomenal, guys. Like, it has such a hard freaking bite. Like, right when I got these, put it on foot, and I tried the bite, I was like, yo, it stops extremely freaking hard. So yeah, that feels extremely nice, first of all. And also, I was walking around all day in this shoe, you know what I mean? I just got it in this morning, and I don't know if you guys can see, but there is a good amount of dust on it, right? Or maybe this pair, it's a little bit easier to see. So it was picking up a little bit of dust, but it didn't seem to be like affected by dust too much either. Like, when I was looking at the outsole, I was like, oh, there's a good amount of dust picking up, right? But it was still having a nice bite. Obviously not as hard as, you know, if there was no dust, but it was still biting pretty well, you know what I mean? So I feel like dust performance is still gonna be pretty dang good in this shoe, but again, I'm gonna need to fully test that. This is just my first impressions, and I haven't actually gone to the actual basketball court, just on my wood floors, right? So yeah, with the tough rubber, it's feeling really nice so far. Also, it has a nice loud high-pitched squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance, but if you like to have a nice squeak, this shoe is pretty dang squeaky. So yeah, the outsole feels very nice so far. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels extremely nice, right? So here in the heel, we have a little bit of a rounded shape, nothing too crazy. And also we do have this cage, right? And it's kind of like an external heel counter, but also it comes down here into the midsole to cage the actual foam. And it still allows for a little bit of compression here in the heel because of these cutouts, right? These triangle shaped cutouts here in the heel on the lateral and medial side still allow the compression to be soft here in the heel, so that feels nice. Also, it does have a nice little balance, which feels great, you know, and they are using Boom. Some websites were saying it's like Boom Light. I've never heard of Boom Light, but some websites were saying it's just Boom, you know, like full length Boom. Whatever it is, you know, I'm sorry if I'm incorrect, you know, but it's just like, it's pretty hard to get the actual tech specs, you know what I mean? But yeah, it does have nice kind of like bounce and compression here in the heel, so it does have a smooth feel, right? And then here in the forefoot, it does have a nice curve shape as well, so that feels nice too. And then here in the look at this. It's actually pretty stiff. It has a pretty stiff feel, especially from what I'm used to from like Nike. You know what I mean? Like the Sabrina 3, the Sabrina 2, the Jaw 2s, the Jordan Tatum 4, Tatum 3, you know? The Luka 4s. So yeah, this is way stiffer, and you can see the actual plate here. They are saying it is a P-Bax plate, and also we do have the Penta S, which we'll get into, but it's kind of like just this cage. But it's supposed to help with the overall support of the shoe as well. But you can see the actual plate here. It starts from the midfoot and goes all the way here into the forefoot. So first of all, the torsion support is extremely good. It's like stiff, right? And then it still allows for a nice bit of flex, but it's pretty hard to flex, you know what I mean? And then once you flex it, it has a very nice kind of like springy explosive feel. So that feels extremely nice, you know what I mean, if you like that, right? So there is the heel to toe transition there. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup reminds me a lot of the Liren 4, you know what I mean? Like the Liren 4, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's right over there. It had a really nice bouncy feel. And then for the Liren 5 and the Liren 5 V2, I feel like they kind of dialed it back a little bit. And it's not as bouncy, it doesn't have as soft of a feel. It just feels a little bit stiffer, a little bit more responsive, but still soft and nice. And it has a nice little bounce, right? But then I got the Liren 6 and I was like, oh, this feels extremely similar to the Liren 5. So first of all, the insole, they're just using kind of like a regular rubbery insole. It's not a super foamy insole. It has more of like a rubbery type of feel. And then underneath that, we have a pretty interesting strobo board. So it's like a shiny kind of like foam material that they're using, you know what I mean? But it's not stiff at all. It just feels like a foam strobo board. And then, you know, usually like with traditional strobo boards, even if they are using like a foam material, underneath that it feels stiff. Like even pressing with my finger, it's kind of like glued down and stiff, right? But not in the Liren 6 and also not in the Liren 4, right? The Liren 6, like when I compress the actual strobo board, it's soft, and then underneath that I can feel the boom as well. So I don't know what it is with the strobo board, but whenever Li-Ning uses this type of strobo board, it actually gives it a nice bit of bounce, which is kind of weird, but yeah, it feels really bouncy. It has a nice bounce, but it's the entire underfoot, you know what I mean? Like the heel, midfoot, and forefoot. So it has a nice soft feel, like just putting my foot into the shoe for step and comfort and standing around, it's still soft. I can feel it. And I am average weight, so I'm not super heavy. So I feel like, you know, if you are heavier, it's gonna be even softer for you guys. But then I started jumping around a little bit in it, you know, just testing it out. And then it actually had a nice bit of bounce. And again, it reminded me a lot of the Liren 4. So it feels great, right? But it's not the best for core feel. I would say it's like, it's just average core feel. You know what I mean? Like something that has really good core feel, of course, is like the Sabrina 3. And then, you know, like this Jaw 2, the Sabrina 2, stuff like that. This one, I feel like doesn't have as good core feel, but it has way better cushion. You know what I mean? Underfoot cushion softer, way bouncier. You have a nice bit of heel compression as well. So yeah, this cushioning setup feels really, really nice. You know what I mean? So there is the cushioning setup there. Moving on to the upper. So for the upper material, I feel like all the materials or the uppers for Chinese company shoes are extremely similar. It just feels kind of like a leno weave, you know what I mean? It's like a textile mesh type of material, you know? It's extremely thin, and we do have a nice bit of the material kind of like exposed on top of your toe box here, and it does have a nice bit of airflow there too. So ventilation is really, really nice, right? And then around that, we do have the actual kind of like material is a little bit more closely knitted, or maybe there's a little bit more string in there, you know what I mean, knitted together a little bit more, but it does feel a little bit stiffer, a little bit more supportive there, and that'll be of course a little bit better for durability. So yeah, here in the toe box, it conforms to my foot pretty dang well, which I do like. And then here in the midfoot, it does get a little bit thicker, also a little bit stiffer. It feels a little bit more glued down, but also you can see the actual like this green material, right? It's the eyelet, but also kind of like folds in on itself and adds another layer of kind of like security for a little bit more lockdown and support there, you know what I mean? So it's on both the lateral and medial side, which of course is good. For the tongue, we have very minimal padding, right? So it's not super cozy at all. It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And then here in the ankle area, it's just like pretty minimal padding. I would say a little bit less than average for the padding. It's not cozy at all. We do have a pretty nice heel tab, so it is pretty easy to slide the shoe on. And of course, like I said, we do have this external heel counter that also cages the actual midsole. So it doesn't feel like super cheap. It doesn't feel the greatest for quality, however. It doesn't feel super duper premium, but it doesn't feel cheap either, you know what I mean? And I feel like it has a nice kind of like minimal feel. Like the overall upper and shoe feels pretty dang thin, you know what I mean? But it still has a nice supportive feel comparing it to shoes like the Sabrina 3, Sabrina 2, you know what I mean? It has a much more supportive feel, but also still has nice ventilation. I would say it has better quality than the materials like the Sabrina 3, Sabrina 2, Jaw 2, you know what I mean? So there is the upper there. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size, and this shoe fits me perfectly, but really, really snug, especially here in the toe box, right? So here in the toe box, I can't curl my toes up at all, you know? So it's just really, really snug. I feel like it'll break in though, you know what I mean? With this mesh, I don't think it'll like get super duper roomy, but I feel like I'll get a little bit roomier, so we'll have to see on that. But right now, I can't curl my toes up really at all. Also lengthwise, going true to size, I'm good to go. You know, it's a very, very snug fit lengthwise as well. And then widthwise, it's like normal to slightly narrow, like once you get to the tip of the toe. It's just like kind of like your typical kind of fit, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of Chinese company shoes, they have a very similar fit, you know? Slightly narrow, pretty snug here in the toe box, and lengthwise I'm good, right? So yeah, if you want a nice snug fit, go true to size. Like really nice snug fit, then go true to size, right? But if you want it to be a little bit looser, you should be fine going up half a size. So there is the fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown. I mean, this shoe feels really nice. Not only is the bottom of the shoe really stiff and supported feeling, but also on the sides. Like you can see the Penta S, right? It says Penta S right over here. It's basically just this kind of like plastic material, right? You can see it on the bottom of the shoe, but also comes up acting as a sidewall here in the forefoot. And then we do have, I guess the logo. It's the Li-Ning logo, and in this colorway, it kind of like moves up and down. I don't know what this is inside though, you know what I mean? But it is see-through, which is kind of funny. It's like an air bubble. And then here in the heel, we of course have an external heel counter. So lateral containment feels like it's gonna be very good, and the overall upper does feel pretty supportive, especially comparing it to like the modern day guard shoes, you know what I mean? From Nike especially. And then we do have a nice kind of like wide, look at this. You can see just how much it like protrudes out here in the forefoot. So yeah, lateral containment, lateral stability feels good, and the overall shoe feels extremely rigid, supportive, and all that. So there's that. Moving on to the weight of the shoe. So when I first got it, I was like, oh, it feels pretty light, but it doesn't feel super duper lightweight. You know what I mean? I feel like it's maybe average, maybe 11 to 12 ounces. Yeah, 11.95 ounces, so pretty much 12 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 11.95 ounces, right? So pretty much 12 ounces, right? So yeah, that's pretty much like, it's a little bit lighter than average, but I feel like nowadays, like since hoop shoes are getting extremely lightweight, the average weight of my shoes is around 12 ounces, you know what I mean? So I would say it's like average weight, but again, it does have a pretty different feel. The overall shoe, again, first of all, has a stiffer feel underfoot, while the upper is still a little bit more stiff than normal, you know what I mean? If you like the guard shoes from like Nike and stuff like that, but it has crazy good cushion, and the traction feels really nice so far. So yeah, there is the weight there. Moving on to the aesthetics. I feel like it looks pretty good. I definitely don't think it looks as good as the V2 though. The 5 V2 looks so good, especially the colorways that came out. The Liren 5, the regular one, also I like because of that kind of like eclipse plate looking thing. You know, the Liren 6, I feel like it looks okay. You know, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I especially like this colorway, but the overall design, I don't think is anything amazing, you know? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, this shoe is feeling really nice so far, and it reminds you a little bit more of the Liren 4 than like the Liren 5. And if you like the Liren 4 with the crazy bouncy cushioning setup, has a little bit more cushion, and also it has a little bit more of a stiffer feel. You know, if you compare it to the Liren 5 V2, it's a little bit, just a tiny bit more flexible feeling. You know, it's still a little bit more rigid though, compared to like, you know, like the Sabrina 3, but it's still a little bit softer and a little bit more flexible than the Liren 6. But again, we'll have to see on how the shoe breaks in. But overall, it's feeling like a really nice, supportive guard shoe, right? So anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the Li-Ning Liren 6. Again, if you guys do want to cop a, try to leave in the feed link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.